The Chicago Blackhawks are still without two consecutive wins on the season as they fell 5-1 to the Red Wings last night. I'll go over the shoddy performance from the young defenseman and the special teams department, and also get into a quick update on the Rockford IceHogs ahead of their busy weekend. All that and plenty more right here on Locked On Blackhawks.
You're Locked On Blackhawks, your daily podcast on the Chicago Blackhawks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everyone? Welcome on into another episode of Locked On Blackhawks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, thank you all for making the show your very first listen. Here to start off your day, I'm your host, Jack Bushman. You can go and give me a follow on X at JackBushman2, or you can go and check out my Strictly Blackhawks account at Talkin' Hockey for all the latest Blackhawks news and updates. And also, per usual, please make sure to go and show some support if you haven't done so already by smashing that like button. Go and comment down below as to how you feel Patrick Kane is going to fare with his new team after hip resurfacing surgery. And of course, make sure to subscribe to the Locked On Blackhawks YouTube channel. It won't cost you anything. It's 100% free, and it really does go a long way for yours truly. So please make sure to take care of that real quick. And you can also go and turn on those push notifications by ringing the bell, and that way you'll get notified, when the episode gets uploaded each and every day. And today's episode of Locked On Blackhawks is sponsored by Game Time. Go and download the Game Time app right now. And if you use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL in all caps, then you'll get $20 off to the sporting events, concerts, or theater events near you. All right, good afternoon, everyone. As always, thank you all for joining me on another episode of Locked On Blackhawks, your one-stop shop for all things Chicago Blackhawks. Back in action were our Blackhawks last night with, fittingly enough, their first matchup of the season against the longtime rival Detroit Red Wings up in Little Caesars Arena. And the reason I say fittingly is because, of course, the news that's been going, there's been a lot of Blackhawks news coming out the last couple of days, but what kind of kickstarted it, aside from the Corey Perry drama, is the signing of Patrick Kane, former Blackhawks three-time Stanley Cup champion, greatest American of all time, to the Detroit Red Wings. And I actually wanted to break down his contract now that we have the details of that on yesterday's episode. Some of you may have seen my post on X yesterday. I went to go and upload the episode, and the audio was completely shot. And it's just been such a frustrating run for me lately, because I know there have been some people in the comment section saying, why don't you have a microphone? I promise you, I do have a microphone. This is the second Blue Yeti microphone that I have bought in the last couple of months. I have another microphone. I'm having just the most absurd troubles with my mic right now in my MacBook Pro. I don't know what's been going on. Geek Squad has not been able to assist me. I promise you it has not been due to a lack of effort as to the reasoning why I haven't had a microphone. It has been an absolute battle. I actually blew a gasket yesterday morning because I've been making so many trips there, and I finally thought I got confirmation that I was going to work. I had faith in it. I recorded the whole episode yesterday with the microphone, and then I go and play and back, and it sounds like absolute crap. So it was very frustrating, but I do apologize. But I wanted to talk about Patrick Kane's contract on yesterday's episode because, as I mentioned, we didn't really have the details right off of the rip. We just knew that Patty Kane was going to be signing to Detroit, but we didn't know the cap hit or the term of that deal. And that's been an interesting kind of conversation throughout this whole debate as to where Patrick Kane was going to sign. Was he going to prefer signing a 2-year deal so him and PK3 and their family would be able to have a little bit of comfortability and be able to know that they're not going to be on the move in a year's time? And there was also obviously the conversations of which spot was going to be the best for Patrick Kane. But I thought it was such an intriguing debate because there were just so many complications in where Patrick Kane was ultimately going to end up to go, right? And I've talked about this a little bit. I mentioned it on Tuesday's episode, but I just don't really know how many other legitimate options Patrick Kane had to sign with, quality teams. And just all the teams that we kind of consider in our minds to be Stanley Cup contenders at this point of the year, they just don't have a lot of money to be dishing out. And then there's obviously the side of things where Patrick Kane wants to go somewhere where they're still playing meaningful hockey, but it felt like it was going to be hard for him to go to a top tier club. So it almost felt like he had to go somewhere had to go to a best of both worlds type of spot. And that's why Detroit, even though I do have questions, and I think we all have these same questions, are they really ready to go and make that pursuit for the Stanley Cup? My answer is no. I still think it's a little bit early for that franchise. But again, I don't know if Patrick Kane had many better options. Yeah, there were a lot of rumors about, teams like Toronto and Tampa Bay, Dallas, Colorado. They're all in a salary cap crisis right now. And, the Buffalo Sabres were another team that got brought up, but they're off to a little bit of a shaky start, and Tage Thompson is going to be out. The Florida Panthers, I did think made some sense, but I do think that would be a little bit further than Patrick Kane would have liked to travel or had his family traveling. And one thing I've talked about too, his dad is someone who loves to go and show some support. I mean, I saw him at the United Center quite a lot, actually, and he's always been known as someone who likes to go and watch his son play. And having to go and do that in Florida, I think that would have been a little bit tough. And Kaner did have some ties to the Michigan area. He lived in Ann Arbor as a kid when he was playing junior hockey, when he was younger. So it did make sense for a couple of different reasons, but ultimately I just don't think there weren't many better spots for Patrick Kane in terms of where he can actually get some money, and the team is still pretty good. There quite honestly were few and far between spots of where he was going to be able to get both of those things. But in terms of the details of Patrick Kane's contract, we now know it is only going to be a one-year deal for him in Detroit. Gets a $2.75 million cap hit, though. And again, I just don't know if there were many other teams that could have even offered him like 2.25 million or even north of 2 million for a one-year deal. It just would have been really complicated. So I do think that's ultimately what led Patrick Kane to Detroit. He said himself that, it's been a spot that he was considering, given that he did spend some of his childhood there in the Ann Arbor area. And it's just a franchise that's always in a spot, a destination spot that's always kind of been in the back of his mind. So yeah, 1 year, $2.75 million deal for Kaner. I think that's a little bit more than probably some people were expecting him to get, but it's going to be interesting to see if he can live up to that expectation. Again, go and comment down below right now as to whether or not you think Patrick Kane's tenure with the Detroit Red Wings is going to be a success. I'm really interested to hear what you all have to say about that. But Kaner did not play in this game last night, was not able to make his Red Wings debut just yet, although he has been practicing with them the last couple of days. But seems like they just want to get him acclimated. I know he's been sharing a lot of videos and stuff showing that, he's healthy and looks like he's fully ready for game action, but I'm sure they still want to get him freshened up on all their details and all the things that they run and see where they want to put him in the lineup and where it makes the most sense. It takes a couple of days to figure that stuff out. So a little sad that Kaner wasn't able to make his Red Wings debut against his former team. I think that would have been a little cool addition to the story there, but we are going to be seeing him once later on this season. The Blackhawks take on the Detroit Red Wings February 25th at the United Center. And don't forget, that's also the same night where Blackhawks and Red Wings legend Chris Chelios is going to have his number retired in the United Center rafters. So that was already going to be a special occasion, and now it's going to be even more special knowing that Alex DeBrincat and Patrick Kane are coming back to the United Center to play together, only this time they're not members of the Chicago Blackhawks. It's going to be a very weird feeling, I'm sure, but happy for Patrick Kane at the end of the day that he does get to return to hockey. We know that he's an absolute competitor, and when he is healthy, like I know last year kind of taints everyone's memory in terms of what kind of special player and what kind of impact Patrick Kane can have, but this was still a hip problem that had been bugging him, even in his own words, since like the 2020 COVID bubble. And in 2021, 2022, like he put up some really good numbers still and looked like he was aging like a fine wine and wasn't even 100% healthy at that time. So really interested to see how this is going to go. I know hip resurfacing surgery is a completely different beast, and there really haven't been any NHL players in the past that have gone through this procedure and returned to peak form or even really been able to kind of sustain their career for many years. But I'm hoping Patrick Kane will be able to do that. I know it's going to be weird watching him in a Red Wings sweater, but at least the way I feel after all he's done for the Blackhawks organization, even for the Detroit Red Wings, and I know the rivalry isn't the same anymore, I'm still going to be rooting for him to do good things. I'm excited that Showtime's back in the league. The NHL is better when Patrick Kane is playing hockey. It's going to be interesting to see when he makes his Blackhawks debut. But don't forget to star that game on February 25th when Alex DeBrincat, Patrick Kane, and the Detroit Red Wings come to the United Center. All right, there are my thoughts on Patrick Kane's one-year deal with the Detroit Red Wings. Coming up in just a moment here, I will get into the game itself that occurred last night as the Blackhawks put up a little bit of a stinker at Little Caesars Arena. But first, I got to talk to you all about Game Time. You shouldn't have to worry and you shouldn't have to stress when buying your next ticket to the next big event. And Game Time is the fast and easy way for you to purchase all of your tickets for sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. And I personally have actually been using Game Time for probably close to a decade now, back when I was in high school and I was wanting to go on down to the United Center and watch, Jonathan Taves, Patrick Kane, Duncan Keith, Brent Seabrook, Marian Hossa, all those Blackhawks legends in action. I would always use the Game Time app because it was always the most affordable and the fastest way for me to get all of my tickets. And even when I'm traveling, I just used Game Time recently when I was out in Las Vegas less than a couple of months ago to go and see a concert. It's always just been the most convenient way for me to purchase all of my tickets. And I personally love how they have views from all the seats in the venue that they'll send you, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive to your seats. I highly recommend you all go and download the Game Time app right now. And when you do, go and create an account and use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL in all caps to get $20 off with your first purchase. Again, you can get $20 off to go and see Connor Bedard at the United Center this season. All you have to do is simply download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL in all caps. Lowest tickets, last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Game Time. Segment 2, getting into the game itself last night, the Blackhawks were coming off of a pretty solid 4-3 victory over the Seattle Kraken to wrap up their 3-game homestand on a high note by taking 2 of those 3 meetings. And I was really hoping they were going to be able to carry that over into their first game of their upcoming 3-game road trip in order to pick up back-to-back victories for the first time this season. That's right. Still no 2-game winning streak for the Blackhawks through their opening 20 games. And unfortunately, that streak is going to continue as the Blackhawks kind of put up, it was a little bit of a weird game, but I'm still ultimately going to call it a stinker last night in Detroit, because while they did sustain a lot of puck possession in those final 2 periods, it was still all for naught. And this offense just still really struggles to generate a quantity of high danger opportunities. That's really the thing that plagues them. And even when they've been doing some good things and picked up those wins against Toronto and against Seattle, still just not getting a whole lot of high danger looks. Yeah, they can cycle it in the offensive zone, but they're having a tough time getting in between the dots and getting those prime time scoring opportunities. And it felt like that was kind of the same last night. But the ultimate reason why I'm going to call it a stinker, Blackhawks fans, is because of the poor performances from both the young defensemen and the Blackhawks special teams department. First off, the special teams, I think we've all reached a boiling point here with the Blackhawk, both units of the Blackhawks special team department. Right out of the gate last night, the Blackhawks get an early power play opportunity, and one of my keys to the game, which unfortunately I didn't get to get out to all of you because of those audio deficiencies I had, but my first key to the game was to win the special teams battle. And my second key to the game was to use the early legs to your advantage, because Detroit was coming off of, they were on the back end of a back-to-back. They had to travel from New York to Detroit the night prior. I know that's not a crazy travel, but still, it figured to give the Hawks a little bit of an advantage, and neither of those things happened. The Blackhawks get an early power play opportunity, and what do? They give up yet another shorthanded goal, and it feels like every single game, it's either the Blackhawks are giving up a shorthanded goal, or they're giving up a shorthanded breakaway, or giving up a shorthanded 2-on-1 or odd man rush. It has just been absolutely painful to watch them not only struggle to convert, but give up high danger looks to the opposition at the same point in time. And I think I speak for all of us when I say it's time to abolish the drop pass. I can't watch it anymore. It hasn't worked all season long. Hell, it didn't work when the Blackhawks still had Patrick Kane and Alex DeBrincat playing together. The drop pass it doesn't work unless you have Connor McDavid. I don't get why the Blackhawks, it's a definition of losing your marbles, is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting the results to change. The Blackhawks keep doing this drop pass, and it keeps not working. And this time it costs them a goal in the early going, gives the Red Wings a 2-on-1 while they're shorthanded. JT Compher from Northbrook, Chicago suburbs kid, seems like he always kills the Blackhawks when he plays them. He puts the Red Wings ahead 1-0 early. Now the Hawks did go and respond right back to tie the game 1-1 with a power play goal from Lucas Reichel. Always nice to see him get on the board. Just his second tally of the season. Still hasn't been able to really find that gear, even though I do think he has been playing better recently. But that was all the Blackhawks offense was able to muster up against Alex Lyon. I did think he was spectacular for the Red Wings, and this game probably could have been, I do believe the Blackhawks deserved more than one goal, but Alex Lyon was stopping everything that he was seeing last night, and it just made it impossible for the Blackhawks to claw their way back. But it was still a really costly start that wound up doing them in. And after that power play goal that they generated to tie the game, they give the lead right back to the Red Wings. Wyatt Kaiser gets absolutely walked by Robbie Fabry for a highlight reel goal. I mean, Fabry, it looked like he had the puck on a string there, dancing around Kaiser, and then some crazy nifty maneuvers to beat Peter Mrazek one-on-one as well. But a tough look for Wyatt Kaiser there in transition. Probably going to want to stay off the old X for a couple of days to avoid that highlight. That put the Blackhawks down 2-1 after 20 minutes, and then right out of the gate in the second, they didn't come ready to play. The Red Wings go and add to their lead. Ben Sherratt goes and follows up an Alex DeBrincat rebound again. Kind of a bad play by Wyatt Kaiser. He turns it over when trying to clear the puck in the neutral zone. The Red Wings come back the other way with a quick little odd man rush. It gets down low to Alex DeBrincat. He's kind of got Wyatt Kaiser one-on-one. He goes to stuff it home. And what does Wyatt Kaiser do? He decides to lay down. Even though there wasn't a cross-crease pass that he really had to prevent, he just decided to lay down. And what he ultimately did by doing that was he ended up blocking Peter Mrazek's left pad, and he wasn't able to sprawl across the crease and to really have a chance to stop that rebound that Ben Sherratt jumped on. So a couple of costly mistakes there from Wyatt Kaiser put the Red Wings ahead by 2. JT Compher went on to add his second goal of the game, another another special teams goal from the Leafs. They went on to add 2 power play goals late to add insult to injury. JT Compher with an easy backdoor tap in. Another problem that's been killing this Blackhawks defense has been their gap control. It's been too large, and they've just been giving up way too many easy goals to the opponent, and that's what happened here on Compher's. Vlasic wasn't able to recognize the play fast enough to go and prevent Compher from tapping home that easy goal. That's probably something that goes along with being a young defenseman. You just got to recognize those plays faster. And Vlasic, out of the young defensemen, he's undoubtedly been the best and arguably been the Blackhawks' best defenseman. But that one was a poor read by him on the penalty kill. And then in the third period, Robbie Fabry also went on to add his second of the game on the rebound. So the Blackhawks give up 2 power play goals. They also let the Red Wings add a shorthanded goal. Not a good night for them. And that's why I call it an absolute stinker, because it was breakdown after breakdown, backdoor tap in, 2-on-1 while shorthanded. A stinker of a defensive performance from the Chicago Blackhawks. And just a tough night all in all for that defense. So yeah, 3 special teams goals given up by the Blackhawks last night. The special team struggle is just, it's so real right now, Blackhawks fans. According to Ben Pope of the Chicago Sun-Times, he put out a column following the game last night. The Hawks are just 7 for 69 on the power play themselves this season and have given up 4 shorthanded goals. And over their last 7 games, not only are they 1 for 20 on the power play with their lone goal coming last night against the Red Wings, they've also given up 2 shorthanded goals. So over their last 7 games, they are being outscored when they're on the power play. And I don't know what more they need to see, but something absolutely has to give here. I think it has to be the drop pass, and they just need to play harder in the offense. There's a lot of things going wrong with this power play. I mean, they have trouble getting entries. They're just not speedy or physical enough. That's why I think they keep Nick Foligno on the power play, because he's someone who can actually go in there with some size and win a puck battle. The passing in the offensive zone feels like it's been putrid. I think that's been my biggest gripe with Seth Jones on the man advantage, is his passing has been terrible. And then there, all in all, has been a reluctancy to shoot the puck. So just a lot of problems. And then the penalty kill, I believe they've now given up a power play goal in 11 of their last 13 teams. So they went 2 for 4 last night while shorthanded. Special teams is just absolutely plaguing this Blackhawks team right now. Wound up really costing them last night in Detroit, and a big reason why they still don't have 2 wins on the season. When you play special teams the way they are, hard to expect this team to come out and win. So the Red Wings were definitely the team that created the more dangerous chances and took advantage when they got their opportunities last night. That's been an issue for the Blackhawks as well. Just not capitalizing, not taking advantage, and getting that finished product. They're going to remain without 2 consecutive wins on the season for at least another couple days here as they fall to 7-14-0 on the season with a 5-1 loss to the Red Wings last night. All right, there is my breakdown of what's going wrong for the Blackhawks right now and over the last couple of games. Coming up in just a moment here, I still got to get into a quick update on the Rockford IceHogs ahead of their busy weekend. But first, I got to talk to you all about eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience is what brings home the winning trophy, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. And eBay Motors has everything that you need to maintain your vehicle and to level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. Plus, with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or else you'll get your money back. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and to bring home that win. Again, that's ebaymotors.com. Back here on the Locked On Blackhawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Once again, if you're still tuned into this point of today's episode, first off, let me just say thank you very much. I really appreciate all of your support. And please, if you will, make sure to go and hit that like button, comment down below, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. It really, really, really does mean a lot to your boy. And also, make sure to go and follow Locked On Blackhawks on Instagram as well. The account has kind of been popping over the last couple of weeks. I've been posting a lot of cool highlight videos of Blackhawks prospects, and whenever Connor Bedard does something cool, I get videos and pictures out of that. And I've also been sharing clips right here live from the show. So again, please make sure to go and follow Locked On Blackhawks on Instagram as well. All right, segment 3. Before I wrap up the show and let you all go and enjoy the rest of your Fridays, I did want to get into a real quick update on the Blackhawks minor league affiliate Rockford IceHogs, since I'm really hoping to be having multiple members of the Rockford IceHogs here on the show this year. Already had Ethan Del Mastro on not all that long ago. Make sure to go and check out that episode if you haven't done so already. Ethan Del Mastro is off to a great start to his professional campaign. Late last year, I also had Joey Anderson on, who's looked really good in his first 4 games with the Blackhawks this season. It's been a lot of fun. And I also have been chatting with Mike Fulta, the play-by-play broadcaster for the Rockford IceHogs. I plan on having him on the show here sometime soon as well. So I feel like it's my responsibility to keep you all in the know with what's going on with the Piggies down in Rockford. And the last time I talked about them, they were on a little bit of a dry spell. I think it was back at the beginning of November. They actually kicked off the year. It's kind of been a streaky season for the Rockford IceHogs is what I've noticed. They got off to a really good start. Then they lost 4 games in a row, which is what I last talked about when discussing them on the show. And since then, they've gone on a pretty nice run. They actually responded with 4 consecutive wins of their own before losing in overtime in their last outing on Saturday against the Milwaukee Admirals. But that now still puts the Rockford IceHogs at 9-5-2 through their first 16 games of the season. And that currently is good enough to have them sitting second in the AHL Central Division. But when talking about the Rockford IceHogs and giving you all a little bit of an update, the guy I have to start with is 2021 second round pick Colton Dach, who of course is, like a couple of youngsters down in Rockford this year, making his leap to the professional scene after spending the last couple of years with playing junior hockey. And it was a tough last year for Colton Dach. Really right off the get-go, I remember being at Blackhawks development camp, and during their prospect showcase against the Minnesota Wild, he actually sustained a concussion, which cost him some time early on in the season. And then when representing Canada at the World Juniors, went on to kind of have that freak-looking wrist injury that was oddly similar to the injury his older brother Kirby suffered when he was the captain of Team Canada at the World Juniors. So just kind of a tough injury-plagued campaign for Colton Dach last year, and it kind of hindered his offense a little bit, in particular the goal scoring, which I've always thought when watching Colton Dach, that's his best offensive attribute, that shot of his. I really think that's what gives him the best opportunity to be a middle six forward for the Blackhawks in the future. And he's someone that I've noticed really likes to call his own number, kind of a la Connor Bedard. He doesn't have that same shot, but he's confident enough in himself to be shooting from tough angles all over the place, just spots you wouldn't think most guys would go and try to score from. Colton Dach isn't afraid to do that. But I really felt like those injuries hindered his goal scoring abilities last year, but it's been awesome to see what he's been up to down in Rockford these last couple of weeks. A few weekends ago, not only did Dach net his first career professional tuck, but he also picked up his first career AHL hat trick as well. And it's kind of just turned into a snowball effect here as Dach has just been finding the back of the net with regularity. And he's now up to 5 goals and 5 assists through his first 11 career AHL games. So he's been picking up his play as of late for the Rockford IceHogs, which has been very exciting to see. I know that the Blackhawks have had some troubles with their forwards. Obviously, Taylor Hall, is going to be out for the rest of the season. And we know Corey Perry's contract has been terminated. That's led to, obviously, Cole Gutman and Joey Anderson being recalled from Rockford. But there also have been some people seeing Dach's success with the IceHogs saying, well, is he going to be the next one called up? My response to that would be, I still think it's way too early to be talking about that. And we know the Blackhawks are wanting to keep this patient mindset with their prospects if possible. And it feels like for guys like Colton, Nolan Allen, Ethan Del Mastro, it feels like they really want them to simmer down there in Rockford, to be in that consistent spot and just kind of play in all opportunities down there before rushing on to the NHL scene. So I ultimately don't think we're going to see Colton Dach for at least a couple of months here. I think they just want to let him get comfortable and adapted to the professional level first before they go and do that. But I do think we will probably see him for at least a couple of games before the end of the year. But even though he's been playing well lately, Blackhawks fans, I do think it's ultimately still early to be talking about a call up for him. I also have to talk about the guy who was on Locked On Blackhawks just a couple of weeks ago, Ethan Del Mastro, who, like Colton Dach, is in his first professional campaign as well, been playing alongside a guy who's in that same boat too, in Nolan Allen, playing the right side. Those two have been defensive partners here in the early going for the IceHogs as well. But the biggest thing that's caught my eye about Ethan Del Mastro, and again, I'm guilty of not watching the IceHogs on a nightly basis, only seeing their highlights and their clips and reading about recaps and whatnot, but the offensive start that Ethan Del Mastro is off to in Rockford is certainly impressive, given we've always known him as a big-bodied, defensive, physical defenseman. But even when he came on the show, I did ask him about kind of his offensive ascension these last couple of years, because it really feels like he's been rounding out his game rather nicely. And he just talked about how it was just kind of a matter of time and getting more comfortable in those areas and just further developing those quick passing skills. So far in 16 AHL games, Ethan Del Mastro has 1 goal and 8 assists. I mean, really impressive numbers that I didn't expect him to put up right off the riff when making the jump to the pro scene. So he's been really good as well. And then I got to talk about Drew Commesso, someone I've been very excited about for the last handful of years since the Hawks selected him 46th overall in the 2020 NHL draft, was him coming up to the professional level. And we finally get to see it after 3 years of college hockey. Did he play all 4? No, he only played 3 years with Boston University. Silly me. But he's off to a phenomenal start as well. In his first 8 AHL starts, Comesso's got a 5-2-1 record to go with a 2.24 goals against average, .917 save percentage, and 1 shutout. He has made that transition look pretty seamless as well. And in comparison to Jackson Stauber, who has a 4-3-1 record, but also has a .359 goals against average and .891 save percentage, as a guy who got a little bit of taste of not only the AHL scene last year, but he actually got a stretch up in the NHL with the Blackhawks as well. You would figure he'd probably be the one leading the charge in goal for the IceHogs right out of the gate, but it's been Drew Commesso who's been more solid between those two. I'm really hoping I can get Drew on the show here sometime soon because he's been one of my favorite prospects for a while, someone I think that has just gotten so much good experience during his junior career from every level he's been at. I would not be surprised whatsoever if he winds up being a really solid netminder for the Blackhawks one day down the road. All right, I think that is going to wrap up today's episode of Locked On Blackhawks. As always, thank you all again for tuning into the show, and please make sure to go and follow Locked On Blackhawks for free right now, wherever you may be listening to your podcast, and to go and subscribe to the Locked On Blackhawks YouTube channel, and that way you can get the latest episode as soon as it becomes available each and every day. As always, I'm your host, Jack Bushman. Go and show me some love on X at JackBushman2, or you can go and check out my Strictly Blackhawks account at Talkin' Hockey for all the latest Blackhawks news and updates. So until tomorrow's episode, I'm going to try to get a show out after the Blackhawks take on the Winnipeg Jets before they take on the Minnesota Wild on Sunday during their weekend back-to-back. But until then, everyone enjoy your weekends. It's going to do it here for the Locked On Blackhawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.